Saving seeds is a really important first step towards not just saving money on your entire garden, but also towards sustainability and also a better gardening season year after year. The way genetics work, if you are saving seeds from plants that have grown in your specific garden, those plants over time will be better and better suited to living in your area. So you are basically over time creating your perfect variety for that specific spot. And cucumbers, in my opinion, are one of the easier seeds to save. They don't require a whole lot of work to go into making sure that you have plenty of seeds year after year. This right here is my cucumber trellis right now. You can see the plant is pretty much completely dead. All of this green is actually from the pumpkin plant that's coming over the top from the other side. And these are my extremely overripe cucumbers. I'm pretty sure that these were Chicago white pickling cucumbers, and they've turned yellow as they have aged. And so that is the first thing that you need to know, is that the stage at which you would pick a cucumber for eating is not the stage that it needs to be at in order for you to save seeds. You've got to let it go way longer than that for the seeds to be able to be fully developed. Because what we really like about eating cucumbers young like we do is that the seeds aren't developed and therefore aren't getting in the way of us eating our cucumbers. You probably don't have to wait until the plant is completely dead like this, but once you see your cucumbers stop growing, you'll start seeing the skin toughen up. And when you can push your fingernail into it and not push through, then you know that the seeds are probably developed enough for you to start saving. And I have waited longer here, and that is okay, mostly because I haven't had the time. So you can go anywhere between as soon as the skin gets tough all the way until, like I've shown you, the plant is just completely dead. So I am only growing one variety of cucumber, which makes it really easy for me to have genetic purity in my seed saving. If you were growing more than one variety of cucumber, then you would have to look at protecting the blossoms as the cucumbers are forming. And all that means is maybe putting a little mesh baggie over any of the female flowers, waiting for them to open, and taking a male flower, which is that one that doesn't have the fruit attached as it's forming, and hand pollinating that baby female flower, covering until it's taken. And then of course you can just mark it and save seeds from that one that you know is genetically pure. And that honestly is the hardest part. If you're only growing one variety of cucumber, the only cross-pollination that could happen is if maybe your neighbors are growing something else. And even then, that's not super likely. But if you only have one variety, I personally don't worry about protecting my blossoms in that case. So out here, all I'm going to do is grab all of my very ripe cucumbers and bring them indoors. And just to be able to show you real quick, even though I don't have babies on the cucumber, I do have babies on my butternut squash, which is very similar. You can see there is what looks like a baby butternut squash here and a flower on the tip. That is your female flower. And then any flower without that, let me find one. Here we go. Any flower without that, it will just have a long straight stem. That is a male flower. So you'll have to find a male flower to pollinate your female flower if you are protecting the blossoms and trying to prevent that crossing. All right, back in the kitchen. All you need to do is slice open your cucumber lengthwise, take a spoon, and scoop out that center part that is full of seeds. If you are saving seeds with the intention of going sustainable, not buying seeds from the store, then you'll want to make sure that you are selecting your fruits for kind of the most beautiful fruits that you see on your plant. You don't want to be choosing the ugliest fruits because then you won't be propagating the prettiest genes. And so you'll want to select for fruits that look really nice and healthy from a plant that was consistently producing healthy fruit for the entire season. If you've got a plant that's looking a little sickly or producing smaller fruit, then don't save the seeds from that unless you're specifically selecting for that for some reason. All right, so I've got my seeds in a jar here. I haven't done like a lot of work as far as getting out the pulp. I made sure that like the giant pieces are out, but mostly this is just seeds and pulp and kind of the natural juice that they're in. Now, the next step is very important. Some seeds you can just save, like dry out from straight from the fruit. But cucumber seeds, if I can get one out to show you, cucumber seeds have this mucus membrane around them. And in order to effectively save the seed and dry it out, we're going to have to break down that mucus membrane. And we do that via a very short fermentation period. And don't get scared about the word fermentation. It's very, very simple. You don't need really any expertise to make this work. All you're going to need to do is add some water to your cucumber seeds and then store them on the counter or in the pantry somewhere out of direct sunlight for like 2 or 3 days, depending on how fast things break down. And you will see that the seeds start to separate from the mucous membranes. And as a quick note, this overripe cucumber that is now hollowed out, no seeds, is still perfectly edible. Like I said, the skin is tough, so you'll want to peel it. I am going to put mine in some brine that I already made the last time I made pickles and just have some quick fridge pickles available from these overripe cucumbers. After a few days, your cucumber seeds should look like this. I added a few more seeds to the jar after I stopped filming, so that's why it's so full. But you can clearly see that they are bubbling on the top. There might be a little bit of layer of mold, and as long as it's nice and white, that's usually okay. And once you've got your seeds in this state where they have clearly started to ferment, you can take them out and pour them into a big jug where you can then add a ton of water. I really recommend something that has a bit of a curve to it, like this jug that I'm using. Maybe a big pitcher that's kind of round at the bottom, because that'll help with the next step. What you're going to do is fill it entirely up with water, give it a really good swish, and let the seeds kind of settle out before then pouring the water and any seeds that have floated off the top. Now, the seeds that have floated, I know you're going to be a little anxious about losing them, but usually if they're going to float like that, then they're not viable anyway. So just pour out as much water as you can without losing a bunch of the seeds that have sunk. That's where that curve of the jug that you're using comes into play. Then go ahead and fill it up with water again, give it a good swish, wait for the seeds to settle, pour it off again. I usually do this like 2 or 3 times until the water's looking pretty much clear. And then I'll go ahead and pour the seeds into a strainer so that I can start drying them out. You can spread your seeds on a paper plate or paper towel, something for them to dry. You could even just use a regular kitchen towel if you don't want to use any paper products. If you're going to use paper products, I would recommend a paper plate over a paper towel, just because seeds like this tend to stick to paper towels, and I have ended up ripping apart a ton of paper towels trying to get seeds off of them. If you are doing multiple varieties of the same type of seed at the same time, I highly, highly recommend labeling them, because you will not remember which is which. Since I'm only doing one variety, label is not super important though. So I'm just going to leave these on my counter for just a couple more days until they dry out. So these have been sitting on my counter for about 3 or 4 days now, and the way you can tell that they are fully dry and ready to be stored is if you can snap them, and they make like a good snapping sound when you break them in half. Now, a lot of people would stop here and they would put their seeds in a plastic or paper bag and go ahead and store them in a cool, dry place. But I always like to do this extra step where I test to make sure that I did all of the rest of it properly. So all I'm going to do is put a damp paper towel in a plastic baggie and just put my seeds up on that. And I'm going to wait for a few days and just check for germination. That way I know that I have viable seed that will actually germinate, and I can kind of guesstimate what the germination rate is going to be from this. I've got some tomato seeds in here also that I'm planning on checking, and I will check back with you in a couple of days. Alright, it has been a couple of days and I have at least one sprout from my cucumber seeds. Normally I would like to see more. The fact that at least one of them sprouted is a good sign. I could have inadvertently just chosen a bunch of duds and gotten really unlucky. If I wanted to be more thorough about this, I could definitely just do this again with fresh seeds and keep checking. But because I've gotten this one to germinate, I'm just gonna go ahead and leave it. Alrighty guys, thanks so much for watching. As always, you can leave your questions in the comments below. If you liked this video, please like and subscribe. And if you really like this video and you want to support me, I do have a Patreon link below for you to check out. Until next time, happy gardening!